Hey YouTube, Todd here again, some guitar guy. First off, and as always, thanks for watching. So, a little shorter video here. Of course, I want to talk about the recent crash a week ago today of Richard McSpadden on the left and Russ Francis on the right, who died in Francis's Cessna 177 Cardinal RG up in Lake Placid, way upstate New York. Apparently, after experiencing engine problems shortly after takeoff, and everything looks to be that they did try the impossible turn, quote unquote, to return to the runway. I want to take a more in-depth look at this, but I wanted to get this video out because I've seen a couple of videos so far, content from other YouTubers that I feel are getting the crash location wrong, which kind of makes their other assumptions at least suspect. But they're not fully to blame because the media has been vague at best. Details are really sketchy, if not just absolutely wrong. So, I mean, it's the media. So, what can we expect? So, just a couple of pictures I'm borrowing from local media. This one, what do we see? What are we looking at? If you don't know the area, even if you do, it may be kind of difficult to pinpoint where this is. Well, we're looking through a chain link fence, obviously, at a wrecked airplane. Kind of note the overall color scheme and trim. You can't make out the tail number. I can zoom in, but that really doesn't help much. You can see utility poles, power lines, some buildings. Looks like several buildings in the background. So presumably there's a road that looks like maybe a radio antenna, something along those lines. I did find this picture. Again, we can zoom in. Usually lose some clarity here, but the paint trim does seem to match. Look for any kind of identifiers on this bucket from the fire department and really can't find anything. But then zooming in a little bit more, well, this appears to be our fence that the other photograph was taken from. But no structures or anything from this angle. So, and this is probably the best quality image. Again, the paint scheme does seem to match. Still can't make out that tail number. But we do see this kind of prominent, a red roofed buildings, several, at least one, two, three, at least three other structures in addition behind this. So what end of the runway did this happen on? Well, the media, and I saw this in a couple of reports, says the northeast end of the runway. Make sure I'm saying that because it doesn't exist. There's not a north east end. There's a southeast end and a northwest end, but not a northeast end. And let's go to the sectional and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is my flight planner, iFlight planner for the AOPA. I do have it zoomed in a little bit. Let's zoom out just a bit, even if you're not familiar with this area, which I was not. So here's Canada. I mean, this is way upstate New York. Burlington, Vermont, Class C. Maybe they'll be able to provide some radar data. I would doubt it because of the terrain. And what I mean, these blue numbers, here in these quadrants are the minimum safe altitudes in this area because of the Adirondack Mountains. And the Lake Placid Airport is at the bottom of this bowl, surrounded by the Adirondacks. I'm sure it's amazingly beautiful. But the chart symbol actually shows the way the runways run. Each, even one runway is really two. For example, here you can take off this direction toward Saranac, which is runway 32, or you can take off southeasterly toward, I don't know, whatever else is New Russia, I suppose. And that's runway 14, like directly away from Lake Placid. You see the gliders, apparently a lot of glider activity there, some contour lines, these big towers here that are over 2,000 foot towers near the field, somewhere near the field. But yeah, I never assumed they were going this direction. If anybody taking off this direction, you're gonna have to climb at a pretty good rate and for a while to get it. The field elevation is 1747, so yeah, you got a while to get up to that 5,700 feet. But let's take a look at the satellite view, and this is powered by Google Photos, and you see, yeah, it's a mountainous area. Zoom in a bit more and a bit more. Okay, so this is the airport itself looks to be about 5,000 feet, but it's only listed at 4,000 feet, and that is because this is where runway 32 starts. The rest of this area is a displaced threshold, as noted by, zoom in, yeah, these arrows. Okay, so I guess this surface has degraded and become deemed unusable. So this is actually where runway 32 starts. Now, like I said, I've seen this on it by a couple of YouTubers already. They're thinking that the crash was on this end of the runway, and there's just nothing to match those pictures on this end of the runway. Other dominant feature, you have a river not terribly far from the end of the runway. You do have some structures. You have this big home, and I guess this home and farm. Zoom out just a little bit, but not several structures close together. And had they taken off this direction, right, well then, yeah, both YouTubers, for whatever reason, actually picked this golf course, which is much further away, and a lot of trees in between there. So if they had taken off this direction, I don't know that this golf course would have been in play, maybe. But what definitely would have been in play would have been these fields, particularly probably this one, even though this one's a little bit wider open. And then the reports also say a hard bank or hard roll to the left. Well, they probably would have been fine. But I don't believe that's the direction they took off. I think they used runway 32, taking off toward the town, like through that mountain pass. And I say that for several reasons. First of all, some of the reports do say that the crash site was near the North Elba athletic fields. Well, those fields are kind of close to the middle of the runway, but they're closer to this end. So that's one thing. Secondly, let's kind of zoom in. This berm is where what I'm thinking they hit somewhere. But what's one thing that stands out? Well, there's our fence. Okay, there's our chain link fence. And whoever took that photo was probably, I don't know, standing somewhere up in here, and was able to get that shot. The rockiness, that also matches. And then guess what? There's a structure with a red roof and several other structures around it and behind it. I don't know. There are, looks like some power lines. Yeah, you see the shadow of the utility pole. So that's and there's the service road. One of the reporters said he was on during video coverage. But yeah, I think this is what they hit based on the photographic imagery available and statements made. And I don't want to go too deep into the rest of what I wanted to cover. I want to keep this decently long, but I will say this: for those that are saying, oh, they should have flown straight, they should have not tried to turn back and this, that, and the other. Well, if you fly straight ahead, okay, what options do you have? Well, that's going to put you right over this subdivision. So, and I'm sure that's not really what they meant, is crash into the subdivision, but the options are fairly limited. There is another golf course off the north end of the runway, the northwest end. Don't know that they could have made it. It depends on the altitude, which hasn't been released. But straight ahead, maybe some trees, but even to try a treetop landing straight ahead, that's not a lot. You say, oh, well, they could land. What about that little place? Well, that's a cemetery. Maybe. And if, this area, maybe. But that's going to take some flying. And that looks to me to be downhill too. But I'll get into more of my thoughts. And, of course, at the end of the day, I don't know that any of that really matters. They made the decision to turn back. I'm sure they thought they had altitude to do so. I don't see either of those guys making the decision knowing they wouldn't make it. And they thought that was the safest play. But just to recap, I do feel like, based on what I've seen, the crash was off the northwest end of the field, off the runway 14 end, probably in this berm and ravine area. Do have more to come, so stay tuned for that. And I don't know, my sentiments to both families, friends, and really the world of aviation. I'll close back on the picture of these two. Didn't know a lot about Francis. Honestly, I'm not a pro sports follower, but McSpadden, I knew well from his videos after returning to flying after 23 years. He was, to me, the face of the AOPA, the AOPA's Air Safety Institute, and just the face of aviation safety in general. And Francis himself, I have researched him a bit as well, was himself an accomplished pilot. So we lost two a week ago, but look for more, and love to hear you guys' thoughts, comments. So please comment up. All right, until next time, thanks.